morning.
Good morning.
As I look around, hi James. There aren't very many people here that I really know. It's been a while since I've been here, and I realized I made some assumptions in preparing this talk. I do prepare my talks because I tend to wander, and so it's easier for me if I know what I'm going to say. It's easier for you if I know what I'm going to say, and I tend to stay more on task here. Some of you, very few of you, know that I used to be a Catholic nun for 20 years, and that is what I base a lot of my experience comes from that. And so for that, are you cold? How can you be cold back there? Okay. Good morning. Are you okay? I wanted to talk about inner peace. I don't know about you, but I'm stressed. Are we all stressed? Do we experience stress? Stress is part of the 21st century experience. And yet it doesn't have to be. It really doesn't. When I think about stress and lack thereof, I remember once an experience I had. It was in the novitiate. And I was just a young person, 17, 18 years old. And I remember we used to go out and we had these times when we could just be out talking or what have you. And now, a novitiate, as you can imagine, is truly a spiritual place. I mean, we pray all the time, right? If we're not praying, we're working for God. We're thinking about God. We do everything for God. We're preparing our lives to serve God. And then when we go to classes, we're learning how to even be better spiritually for God, to grow. But even then, there's a lot of stress because you're living with other people. Whenever you're with other people, what is there? Stress, right? And especially other people who think they are living for God. Yeah. Okay, so everybody thinks that they're being perfectly spiritual, and here we are, and they're driving you nuts. And so you are trying to understand, why you're not exactly thrilled to be with that person and this person. And I remember I was out on this, it was a large farm. I don't know if you're familiar with Dubuque, Iowa, but Dubuque, Iowa is known as Little Rome, the Little Vatican, because it has 7 hills, and on each hill is a mother house. Did you know that?
I do know.
It's very Catholic, it's also very white. I learned that also. This was back in the 60s, and so there were all these mother houses, very holy city, one would think. And I remember I was separated out. I mean, the others were all around, and I was on top of this little mound, and all of a sudden I was just filled with this sense of awe. This is how Rabbi Heschel describes faith. A sense of awe. That awesomeness that comes when you're looking at a little baby. Or when you're standing on the edge of the Grand Canyon and you just realize how small we are. It's that sense of total vulnerability and yet power that comes with being. It's hard to describe that, but I remember, and I'll never forget that moment, because I thought, wow, I am real. It was awesome. And so when I think of inner peace, that's what I think of. Because in this environment, which should have been filled with peace and love and harmony, I found it within myself, by myself. And I thought that's where it has to come from, regardless of the environment in which we're in. You're not going to find it on retreat. You may, I mean it helps, but it has to be within. And so that's why I wanted to speak about that. Because I'm sure you have met people like I have who seem to exude that sense of presence, that peace, that calmness. These are the people I like to be around because they make me feel calm. They make me feel at one. And I like being around them. I like being around them. So I did some work on this. Inner peace, this peace of mind, comes from being mentally and spiritually at peace with enough knowledge and understanding to keep oneself strong in the face of discord or stress. And there are some people who can do this. Now there are some of us who do this well in the moment of stress. The minute it's over, we fall apart. You know, it's like, oh my God, I can't believe I went through that. But the point of it is, we handle stress well to other people, but is it happening inside? So I did some searching and found 10 ways to find inner peace. I like this. See, 10 ways to find inner peace. Life does not have to be filled with stress. And as spiritualists, we certainly have every advantage because we have a perspective that Spirit is with us, we are never alone, and that we are part of a larger plan. And knowing this, I mean, how can we lose? So, I have approximately 50 seconds for each step. The first step is... Well, that's what Mark told me. The first step is accept what is. Accept what is. And that is, we can't change what has happened in the past. It simply is. When I used to teach freshmen, I would say, stop blaming your parents. They did the best they could. It's over with. You're 14, 15 years old. It's time to grow up.
Yes. Amen.
It's time to take responsibility for your own lives. And you know, sometimes I do that. I teach adults now. I say, you're 35 years old. It's time to take responsibility. Stop blaming your past.
Amen.
I'm glad you agree. But what I notice with so many people is that we focus on the past, we worry about things we have no control over, and we also worry about things in the future. Why are we worried about the future? How many of you have worried and just perseverated over things that you're going to have to do? I've got to talk to her about this. Oh my God, how do I tell her to take a shower? So, and then when you actually do it, you find out, well, that was no problem. I should have done that 3 months ago. Right? Am I right? Things seem to always work out well. Why? Because we're not the only ones having to do these things. We have Spirit with us. We care too much about what other people are thinking. Why? Because many of us are raised that way. Do you want to go out there looking like that? What will your grandmother say? What will these people say? What will those people say?
Give them something to talk about.
Yes, do you want to give them something to talk about? And the fact is, we don't know what they're thinking. We have no idea, nor should we care. Because what they think now, they may not think in another 2 weeks. They might not even think what we think they're thinking. We think they're thinking something, and all we're doing is projecting what we would be thinking if we were them. But we're not them, right? So they come from a different background, they have a whole different set of values. Why are we worried about it? Once you open your mind to this fact and start accepting the fact that you can't change your past, you can't change your future, live in the now. This is the way it is. You will find yourself relieved of a whole huge mountain off your back. This is the way it is. Now, let's proceed to the next step, which is to meditate. Okay, now I understand meditation is hard. 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago, when my chiropractor, good old Dr. Kalsa, said, Norma, you need to take 10 minutes to meditate every day. I mean, he knew what was going on back there. And I said, okay. Now you would think I would have a strong background in meditation, right? No. No, because while everybody else was meditating in church, what was Norma reading? I went through the entire library at the BVM convent. I read everything in the book. This is the truth. This is the truth. I went through the entire, I even read canon law.
Oh, God.
They used to say, Norma, Sister Walter read canon law. And I used to think, yes, I did. But I never meditated. I mean, I didn't know what it was. Even 10 years ago, when I would sit down there and I'd be in a chair and I think, okay, 5 minutes. Oh, there are so many things I could be doing. And it was difficult. Now when I teach religious studies to adults, I encourage them, if they can't meditate, I mean, and it is difficult, because we're all very focused on what we should be doing. I tell them, try the steering wheel meditation. That's after you drop off the kids, when you're out of the garage, you know, and you're sitting there, and certainly not at a light, but you're parked off to the side. Just sit there and stare at the steering wheel for 5 minutes. You can't do anything, turn off the radio. But just sit there for 5 minutes. You're out of the way, nobody's behind you, nobody's honking. Just sit there and be. And be. Don't plan, be. And see if you can be with yourself for 5 minutes. Maybe, just maybe, you might find yourself capable of moving that up to 7 minutes, to 10 minutes. 3, spend time in nature. Now this is easy for Phoenicians. We love nature. That's because we can see it. We can actually walk outside and see the sky. See, New York, I was in New York once. You can't see it. Right there's the sky. See, but we have a different attitude toward nature. We do. We love it, even if we don't go biking and hiking anymore. We can appreciate it. We can appreciate it. Learn the power of a smile. See, just smile. I used to give workshops to people in retail. And I would say, you know, when you're sitting there, you're at a committee or a convention or even at some type of a gathering, watch how your face is. Because every person there is a potential customer or client. And if you're sitting there, who's attracted to that? And you've all heard a smile takes fewer muscles than a frown. So why not have that relaxed smile on your face? Show that you're happy. It's amazing. You don't have to sit there, you know, like some kind of an idiot. But you can certainly look relaxed and pleased. The other thing has to do, the other piece of that has to do with how you handle things. Do you react with frantic anxiety every time something happens. True story. I used to be in charge of vocations here in the diocese. And I was with a young woman going to Los Angeles, and we were driving back from California. Now, just the two of us in the car. And now this was a young woman who wanted to become a religious sister. And I was there to take her to this conference and bring her back. And there was a row of cars, as is usual, on 10 coming east. And this police officer came by, it was patrolman, came by, and it was just fascinating to me how he was able to just, point at people. He had 5 cars all following him that all pulled off to the side so he could give them tickets. I thought that was amazing. I mean, such discipline. I'm a teacher, right? That's discipline. And so I started laughing. I said, oh my gosh, look at this. And she wasn't laughing. She did not laugh. I said, well, that's really kind of funny when you think about it. She was pulling over and we were sitting there waiting for him to come to our car. And I said, but when you think about it, I mean, we were speeding a little bit, but that is really, I mean, that's quite a system that they have there for She didn't appreciate anything I was saying. And all the way back to Phoenix, she didn't talk to me. She said not a word. And I thought, A, she's not Irish. B, she has no sense of humor. And C, I don't think she's going to make it as a nun. Because you have to have a sense of humor. These things happen. It happens. And so at any rate, you can always take these things that happen. A dish breaks. Something occurs, and you can say, God, my life sucks. Or you can say, oh well, that'll set me back another 5 minutes. Peace will come much more easily if you smile and have a good time. And just realize this passes. I mean, how many times have you had disasters happening and now you don't even remember them? Huh? Think outwardly. I better speed up. Sometimes we are so consumed with our own problems, we don't see the forest for the trees. I work with doctoral students. They only see the trees. You've got to be able to see the forest, to keep that in mind. And if you can, then you realize the world doesn't revolve around your problems. How many times have you been so consumed with your issues, and then you hear about this person who has such terrible, terrible chronic issues, such terrible, has done this, has lost a house, has this, and then you think, oh my gosh, I'm so grateful for everything I have. A total turnaround on your perception. And if we keep those people in mind to realize how grateful we should be, how can we possibly feel sorry for ourselves because I can't buy that outfit? Looking beyond ourselves is very important in finding peace. Caring about other people. And not being so self-consumed. That is related to that. And that helps us then also to never lose hope. Because when we care about people and we see that people do emerge from their doldrums. Now, this can be very difficult because, I mean, we've all had those issues where we have just been terribly, terribly laid low. Am I right? I was once fired from a job that had been written for me. Now, it's not like being laid off with 40 other people. This job had been made for me, and I was fired from it. How can you fire a nice person like me? But I was fired, and not given a reason. Because here in the state of Arizona, you don't have to have a reason. It's just not working out. What's not working out? Well, I was in a fetal position the entire weekend because I was just devastated. Just devastated. It was terrible. But the result of that was to move out, and now this was some time ago, but this was to move out of a job that was limited at, what, $20,000 a year, to start moving into a new path that has been much more financially beneficial for me. Otherwise, I would still be working for that foundation at probably maybe $24,000 a year. Do you see? But it's only history that gives us that, what they call the rear view mirror. Marshall McLuhan, some of you have read, that rear view mirror that tells us the fetal position is not really healthy for an adult woman. It's not really healthy. So that is based upon embracing our beliefs. We all have beliefs. One system is not truly better than another. It's whichever system works for us. That's why there are so many different belief systems. But whatever system you have is the system you have to embrace. Don't be thinking, well, okay, it's pretty good most of the time, but I'm really upset now. Having a healthy faith, and faith doesn't always mean religion. Faith means a spiritual grounding. Research has shown that people who are deeply devoted to their faith have a higher life expectancy and fewer diseases. Did you know that?
Yep.
We are an intelligent group, aren't we?
Yes.
We are an intelligent group. So we therefore, number 9, see I'm moving along, we keep learning. We keep learning. Now one of the hardest things, the most stressful things, is to always be right. You're looking at someone who has a lot of stress always being right. Because, especially when you're teaching adults and they expect you to always be right. Yes, I know, and I live with someone like that. To be self-righteous, and we all know people like that, don't we? They just have to be right. You don't question them. Well, that's difficult. It's difficult not to ever question them, but it's difficult to never allow anyone to question you. Because what a burden that is. What a burden. Because what if you are wrong? So it's important as an individual to keep learning, to realize we don't know everything. We don't know everything. And as spiritualists, we especially know we don't know everything. Because we're constantly learning that as we walk through life, those steps take on new meaning. I mean, don't think that my vision has grown 100-fold in these past 10 or 12 years. Amazingly so. It brings great joy in learning and inner peace. And so that brings us back to the 10th step, living in the present moment. Does that sound familiar? Live in the present moment. Don't worry about the past or something that hasn't happened in the future. Why worry about something we cannot change? Why worry about something we're not sure will even happen? Live in the present moment where there is the stillness in the soul. Once I learned to live in the present moment, I learned about peace. I was also able to meditate a whole lot better. Now, there's a whole lot that can be said about inner peace, and that doesn't mean at every moment in my life I am just a blissful soul. You can ask Louise. I'm not always a blissful soul. But generally, I am there and I find my way there. There are some excellent books that are available. The Path to Tranquility by the Dalai Lama. Eckhart Tolle, some of you are familiar with Eckhart Tolle. Stillness Speaks, and Deepak Chopra, who wrote The Path to Love. Now, some of you have heard of the Peace Pilgrim, yes? Peace Pilgrim, I hadn't heard of her, but this is a woman, she has since passed, and friends of hers gathered after she passed to write about her life and what she would do. A lot of this that I have talked about is based on her life. She called herself the Peace Pilgrim. These books are free. They're available. We just brought a couple of them here, and then there are some brochures, little booklets on her. So if you're interested in this, we have a couple books and brochures that you are welcome to. I want to thank you for your attention. I went over time, I am sorry, but I give you much love, and God bless each and every one of you.